now we're here talking about the fall feast. And the fall feast, so a lot of things of the past talked about how we got to where we are now, right? So when Moses left, Yah established Passover. So that's when Passover in the book, the Feast of Unleavened Bread actually occurred. And then Yah told him in Leviticus 23 to keep these other feast days, right? So as he's living and the children of Israel are going through, they haven't even got to the book of Acts yet, even though they're keeping the feast days. That's going to point them to a future book of Acts where the spirit of Yah, the Ruach HaKodesh, went on as tongues of fire to the people, right? They were already doing those things as a pointing to the future of a future discipleship, I would say, of Yah's people coming under the Messiah. So Passover was a sign of, Yahusha coming to die for our sins and to cover us, right? For us to be cleansed and for us to be renewed. And he basically was resurrected as that first fruit. So, but that was still in Moses' future. So now in our time, that stuff has happened in the past. So the spring feast has already been established. And then the Pentecost, some people call it summer feast, but still among those feast days as well. And remember, we talked about the turning of the year, right? That time of the sun is going through a circuit. At the end of the circuit, we now get to these fall feast days. So the fall feast day starts with the blowing of the trumpet, a warning, right? Yom Terruah. So it says in Leviticus 23, like we said, all these are at least mentioned in Leviticus 23 to some extent. And it says, speak to the sons of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, on the first of the month, so the first of the month, right? The very first time you see the moon, the new moon, you shall have a rest, a reminding of blowing of trumpets, a holy convocation. Remember I was talking about holy convocation. It's time the people come together and assemble. You blow the trumpet. It's a sign of ingathering, right? A holy convocation. You should not do any laborious work. You should present an offering by fire to Yahuwah. So it's a time of rest, a Shabbat, just like we're doing today. Today is a Shabbat, but they call these high Shabbat. So on these days that these things happen, you're supposed to come, stop working to give Yah the attention that he needs, because that he desires, not that he needs, that he desires, because these are moads, right? Appointed times that he wants people to give him attention, because he's trying to get our attention about something that's going on, right? So this Feast of Trumpets, the blowing of trumpets, is a sign that he's going, a warning, right? You blow the trumpet for people to come in, blow the trumpet as a warning. So he's warning people, us, to remember this for when he's going to come back. So in Matthew 24, we can see, as we read earlier, that he will send for, 24:30, it says, and the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the sky, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of the sky with power and great glory. And he will send forth his angels with a great trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of the sky to the other, showing that his angels are going to go gather his people to bring them back, right? So some people try to say that's a rapture. Some people try to say, I don't know what else they try to say, but that is a gathering of the people back to Israel, not just gathering to heaven only. I think we go through some of that too in Revelations chapter 7, that a trumpet is blown and there's a gathering of people. But we talk about that as part of the end time prophecy. I think we might have some of those the earlier Shabbat services that we did that you can go and look back at. But in Isaiah 27, you can see something that's a foreshadowing of that. This is something not just in Matthew. You can see a connection back to Isaiah 27, starting verse 12. In that day, Yahuwah will start his threshing from the flowing stream of the Euphrates to the brook of Egypt, and you will be gathered up one by one, O sons of Israel, saying that he's going to gather up the children of Israel, right? It will come about also in that day, a great trumpet will be blown. So this is not just a New Testament. You got to understand the prophecy of the Tanakh, right? Of the Old Testament, before you can kind of understand what this is saying during the time, that Yahushua is saying this, right? So he's not just coming up with some new doctrine. He's basically going based upon what was already established, because they didn't have a New Testament. Even my Christian pastors used to say that as they were living the New Testament, they didn't have a New Testament. They were actually living it for somebody to write it out later, to talk about those events. So what they had was the Tanakh, right? The Old Testament that they were going based upon and teaching based upon. So you can see these quotes coming straight out of the Tanakh. So if you never read the Old Testament, if your pastor's not preaching out the Old Testament, how can you understand the New Testament? So that's why it says all one. It's one testament of what Yahushua has came to do on the cross to die for our sins, and also what he's coming back to establish the kingdom of Yah on earth and the New Jerusalem. So this is what these fall feast days are about, his return. So the blowing of the trumpet, the angels are going out, gathering the sons of Israel, and then it's a sign that what's going to happen next, right? So it says, in that day a great trumpet will be blown, and those who are perishing in the land of Assyria, who were scattered in the land of Egypt, will come and worship Yahuwah in the holy mountain at Jerusalem. So bringing us back to Jerusalem. So that's what the Feast of Trumpets about. You're supposed to blow and have a holy convocation, and when you see the moon on the seventh month, and seventh, right? Seven is that total number of completion. So all these fall feast days are going to happen in that seventh month. All right. So that's the reason why it's so important to understand that month as well. Come together, we are here.